That's 2 hours and a half of my life I'm never getting back. Before you guys think that I'm shitting on this film because it's directed by Michael Bay, I want to let you know that I actually enjoyed a few of his films. 13 Hours was somewhat decent, Bad Boys 2 was kind of funny and entertaining, I liked the first Transformers film, and The Rock is actually pretty good. Of course, my expectations for Transformers The Last Night were at an all-time Mariana Trench low because every film following the first Transformers film has been really disappointing. And even with monstrously low expectations, I still felt cheated out of my money. I felt unclean following my unfortunate viewing of this cinematic abomination, so I heavily implore you to steer clear and do something else with your time. So following the events of the previous film, the majority of the world's governments have outlawed Transformers. Kate Yeager, played by Mark Wahlberg, is now a fugitive and is harboring the good Autobots in his junkyard, while Lennox, played by Josh Duhamel, is chasing the villainous Decepticons. Out there in space, Optimus Prime, having left Earth, discovers that the Transformer homeworld Cybertron is dying and is headed straight towards Earth. Running the show on Cybertron is an evil sorceress named Quintessa, who brainwashes Optimus Prime into obeying her orders to drain the life force out of Earth so that Cybertron can be restored. Earth's only hope is a strange talisman that Cade finds, in addition to a 1,600-year-old staff that belonged to Merlin the Sorcerer, played in the medieval-themed prologue by Stanley Tucci. And the only person that can wield the staff is an Oxford professor named Vivian Wembley, played by Laura Haddock. Accompanying her is Sir Edmund, played by Anthony Hopkins, who's the last member of a Transformer-protecting secret society called the Witwicken Order. Before I wrote my scathing review for this shitfest, I didn't know where to begin. My ideas were scattered, messy, and ricocheting off of the enclosures of my gray matter. However, I took the time to assemble my thoughts and make edits accordingly. The same can't be said for Transformers The Last Night, because I don't think Michael Bay even hired an editor or read the script that came from what appears to be the asses of Art Markham, Ken Nolan, and Matt Holloway. This sorry excuse for a storyline is a flaming hot mess from start to finish. It's comprised of multiple generic, meandering subplots that go absolutely nowhere and unnecessarily complicate everything. Pouring further alcohol on the destructive flames of incompetent storytelling was the shoddy editing and overinflated length. Plot threads come and go at such a high frequency that you think you're watching a jumble of 5 films into one. For fuck's sake, shoehorn into this plot is this anti-Transformer government agency that makes a deal with Megatron, which returns to him a bunch of captured prisoners who are introduced in a stylish roll call in the style of Suicide Squad. It had no significance to the storyline, and neither did Megatron, so that shit just felt completely out of place. In the end, the film's structure came off as 2 things. The first being an incoherent, random feeling mishmash of plot exposition, awkward humor, and unnecessary scenes, and the second part being your usual grand final action sequence that just sets up the next money-grubbing waste of time. This film focused on a whole bunch of unnecessary crap and rushed through the important and more interesting plot points, which is all the more frustrating given this movie's inflated runtime. When it comes to characters, there is far too many of them, and the majority don't seem to serve an actual purpose. In this film, characters are shown or introduced, then they disappear for long periods of time until the plot decides they're needed again. Take Optimus Prime, for example. The misleading trailer made it look like he was going to be an integral part of the story. With Optimus Prime having left Earth to find his creator and being brainwashed by Quintessa into destroying it, you'd expect maybe a climactic return or an interesting character arc. Instead, he's absent for over like 95% of this 2-hour-and-a-half flick, and I shit you not, his character arc gets resolved within a matter of seconds, and shortly before joining the final action sequence. Feeling insulted yet? You should be. Isabella, who's a headstrong young teenager who hangs out with Autobots, is introduced in the first 20 minutes and then doesn't return until the end of the film. And as for the esteemed Anthony Hopkins, I don't know what compelled him to partake in this monstrosity. He looks like he was held at gunpoint to be in this film, as his sole purpose is spouting plot exposition with an absence of grace. Sure, the special effects are state-of-the-art and pleasing to the eye, especially during the final action sequence. However, its gravitas is diminished at a rate faster than a wrecking ball off an airship because the jumbled mess that preceded it made no effort at all to keep us emotionally invested. Technical aspects are supposed to be the redeeming factors of crappy films, but I did find something in that department that stood out like a sore thumb for me, and that was the strange shifting of the aspect ratio. Michael Bay shot this film with 3 cameras, and the aspect ratio varies with each one. When used properly, this aspect ratio changing technique does wonders, like in the Grand Budapest Hotel. But in this film, it doesn't appear to serve any kind of artistic purpose. The aspect ratio changes are pretty jarring because they occurred within scenes and only after a few shots, so they look choppy and just ended up being distracting. Guys, Transformers The Last Night is a big fat middle finger to every self-respecting film lover and filmmaker out there. With a production budget pushing $200 million, this ginormous sum of money could have been put to much better use, like feeding millions of poor and needy people. But no, money is funneled into a franchise that couldn't give 2 shits about moviegoers' time and sanity. The only thing the guys behind this franchise give a shit about is the amount of money that that they could stuff into their morbidly obese wallets. The more I think about this film and reflect on it, the more I despise it. I didn't find myself enjoying a single moment of Transformers The Last Knight. I thought it was a flaming pile of cinematic excrement that should be avoided at all costs. For the love of God, save your money, save your time, and save your soul. So I'm gonna give Transformers The Last Knight a pathetic 1. So these are my thoughts on Transformers The Last Knight. What did you think of the film? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you like what I do, give me a like, hit that big subscribe button, stay tuned, and I will see you on the next one.